Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show host or the guest are their own. Enjoy the show.
And so that's it. Hi, welcome to this. I'm so excited. We're so excited because this is the 40th episode of A Couple Takes on MS. Hi, this is Dan Digman.
And hi, this is me, Jennifer Digman.
And as we're talking here today, A Couple Takes on MS, I have relapsing remitting MS.
And my multiple sclerosis, which I also have, is in the secondary progressive stage.
And we are a married couple. We've been married for about 13 years. And what we're looking at today, and we want you to hang with us because this is just kind of a, I don't want to say potpourri, but we're calling this our MS Minis.
And kind of like fun-sized candy bars, which are delicious little Weight Watcher friendly treats sometimes. You know, you can just get a little bit of chocolate. MS Minis, which is the title of today's program, it's just fun-sized little snippets of information about a number of topics dealing with multiple sclerosis.
And it's just things that we've encountered, that we see, we're experiencing, we're going through. Just want to bring it up, and I mean, several of these is just hopefully spark some conversation with you because we want to know your opinions on a couple things too. I mean, obviously, we're giving you a couple takes, a couple being married couple, and different perspectives, but this is also about you, and you can get in touch with us through our website at danandjenniferdigman.com or on Twitter at danjendig. And so we just wanted to approach these little fun-sized things.
Fun size, and I think when Dan and I were talking about it, I was inspired by Ann Landers. I believe it was Ann Landers. She was a newspaper columnist back when I was growing up in the 80s, and she would occasionally have an article about cleaning out the junk drawer. Not that these are junk topics that we're talking about, but just odds and ends that she would talk about in her self-help column. And if you've never read Ann Landers' column, she doesn't write under that name anymore. She passed away a number of years ago, but it's really good stuff, and it's just a neat hodgepodge potpourri, like Dan said. So that's what we're talking about.
So how's this party getting started? What we're starting with here, and we're not necessarily endorsing things, but this came to us. It's a book called Multiple Sclerosis Manifesto, Action to Take, Principles to Live By. And we just got this in the mail. It's written by Julie, you practice the name, Stachowiak. And she is like legendary MS author and writer. She's written for a number of different blogs, different communities. And so we got this book as a prize for a contest or a photo thing we did for another website, FUMS, with Kathy Reagan Young, and it's a dynamic blog, and she has a podcast and everything. Incredible person, and when she sent us this book in the mail, I was just like, you pause to just say, well, if Kathy likes it, this probably is pretty good.
And it is, and Kathy is part of our community, our vlogging community, our radio community, our writing community, and she's living with multiple sclerosis like we are. And part of the thing about Julie Stachowiak's book that's so interesting is that she herself is a person living with multiple sclerosis. And I've started reading her book, and it's very approachable. I think much like we hope our radio show is, we speak a language that those of us living with multiple sclerosis understand, and this book is written in that same kind of friendly she gets us kind of way. And I think that that's very approachable, and I look forward to reading the rest of it. But she's giving us tips, different ways to create your personal mission statement on living with the disease, or things about protecting yourself and learning more about medications that you're taking, tips to managing your disease. So I think it's going to be a really important, helpful book, even though Dan and I have each been living with the disease for over 15.
You're over 20. I'm pushing 20.
You're pushing so close to 20 years. I don't know how to properly say that. I'll ask my writer husband.
Nearly almost
20 years.
Around.
So I think even though we've been living with the disease this long, we're going to glean some really good tips out of this book.
Well, and I think that that's what is so encouraging, because, obviously when you've had it for, 2 decades, really nearly 2 decades, you feel like, well, what new am I going to read about multiple sclerosis? And the reality is, no matter how long you've had this disease, there always is something new to learn, to develop, to glean, to take from. And I mean, just flipping through the book, I'm seeing a lot of tips and hints of things that I could take to heart. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it.
And again, it's coming from our friend Kathy, who we trust, and if she recommends it and sends it to us, we take that with as a really high endorsement. And that's the amazing thing about living with multiple sclerosis and being part of this community. Your friends can be near or far, but if you're all kind of facing the same disease, your community is really strong. And Kathy's a strong member of our community.
And then moving on to the next mini, there was a report that we saw in the news, and then we followed up and looked a little further into it. But it came out of Dulles International Airport. There was a video that went viral. There was a 96-year-old woman who could not go through security walking through, so she had to be in a wheelchair. And the TSA agents, once she made it through, gave a 96-year-old woman a full body search. And the videos showing TSA agents, I don't know if you all have been subject to a full body search from the TSA, can be a little intrusive.
It can be a little intrusive, but after witnessing 9/11 and the attacks on that happened all those years ago, I feel that the safety is important. And I understand that this woman that was experiencing the pat down, I believe it was her children who recorded the pat down, talking about how ridiculous it was. And I thought, yes, the woman is 96 years old, but I don't know if that gives her a green light that she doesn't need to be patted down or searched. I mean, I'm a 43-year-old woman in a wheelchair who gets a pat down every time I fly. And I think I don't look like a terrorist, but what does a terrorist look like? So while it may be inconvenient and take a little time, I appreciate the thoroughness and the friendliness of TSA agents. I don't think they want to inconvenience a person any more than anyone else. They want to do their job, and they want to protect the safety of the passengers. So I watched this, and yes, it was a 6-minute pat down, but I'm like, consider yourself lucky that it was only 6 minutes, because I fly in a power wheelchair, so it is not a rarity, or it's not, what am I trying to say?
It's not uncommon.
Yeah, it's not unusual for me to be patted down for at least 10 minutes, and for there may be 2 different people that have to test my
chair.
Get
in your junk and
get into my business. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that, yeah, it's difficult. I have a hard time lifting up my arms. I can't stand anymore, and fortunately, the airlines are pretty accommodating in that they don't require I take off my shoes, but they need to be thorough. And so I feel for this woman that was 96 years old, I feel for her children that didn't want to be inconvenienced, who thought it was ridiculous. But again, what does a terrorist look like? And yes, that 6 minutes may seem like a long time at the time, but it's 6 minutes that, it has to be done. And while I don't think anyone enjoys going through TSA, it is important. And I don't think the fact that I have a disability or that somebody is older should give them a pass to get through without security.
And I think, I go through and I always have the problem, for whatever reason, with my jeans. My pockets are empty. I have absolutely nothing in there. But there's always something on the front side left leg by my waist that sets something off when I do, stand the little thing in the X-ray and it's there. And I don't know how many times I've gotten, it's a little personal, but at the same time, they're just doing their job. And where it's not like we're behind closed doors. I'm there for God and everybody to see. And I think it's just people understand, and that doesn't bother me. It's just like it's kind of annoying. I feel bad, but it's just reality is I can go through. You always have to wait for a separate person, for a female, to give you the full check and everything. But that I feel like I'm taking a long time, and then I get my shoes on, and I'm sitting there watching you. So I mean, you take, and it takes time because it's like they're loading your wheelchair on the plane, and so
they have to thoroughly inspect it, and it takes time. And I realize we have friends who also use wheelchairs, and they get frustrated, and they may not get the best treatment, but I've been very fortunate. I remember Dan and I went to an airport just a few months ago, and a TSA agent ended up giving me a hug at the end of my pat down, and she talked to me, and she was very friendly, and she disclosed that she too was living with multiple sclerosis. And I think what an amazing experience that we share that commonality and that bond. So sometimes you can get an intrusive 6-minute or 8-minute pat down, but it could end with a hug and somebody disclosing something really private and personal. Do you remember that when that happened?
I think that was in, was that Tulsa? But I do remember. And I think that it's just one of those things where we always say when you're traveling, kill people with kindness. I mean, it's just you always want to be nice, be their friends, because they're just doing their job. And what can you do to make your time easier, their time easier?
Yeah, it's just easier. I remember reading when I was younger that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. And I'm not saying be, putting yourself in jeopardy or not taking good care of yourself or letting people walk all over you or, not treat you well. But in those moments, I'm sure nobody really wants to have to search all over and inconvenience another person to do their job. But it is, if you can be kind and they can hopefully be kind in return. And I don't want to say that the woman who was having her TSA pat down, it wasn't a somewhat bothersome or upsetting experience. I don't want to belittle that at all. But I want to say that that's common for Dan and I and those of us in the disabled community who want to travel. Boy, I'm a little winded tonight. Sorry, I'm sure you all can understand have had those moments. But that, the TSA incident really threw up a red flag for both Dan and I, because we were like, yeah, that's life with a disability.
And moving on, we were looking at weather changing, and I mean, finally, our windows are actually open. We're not hot, we're not cold. The weather's perfect. Summer is officially almost here. I mean, we're past Memorial Day, but almost to the official seasonal start of summer. But it's a question of how does the weather change your mood and what you do or don't do. And I think
I think that's now that we're Dan saying that, we have the windows open, and this is the first time we've had it open. It's a little warmer, upper 70s, And maybe, I'm having a light bulb moment. Maybe that's why I'm a little winded. It's a little harder to breathe. It's a little warmer out. But I don't know about you, but the first opportunity we have to have windows open or sunshine, I want to get outside. I want to enjoy it. And I don't want to make myself weaker or worse, but I want to enjoy it as much as I can. And that leads to a funny story. Yesterday, Dan and I went outside because it was beautiful out, and we fell asleep outside.
It was like afternoon. It was probably about like 5 o'clock, and yes, we had put sunscreen on earlier, so we were okay that way. So we're just sitting out on the patio, and the sun was so nice. It was so warm, and we truly we fell asleep. Jennifer in her chair, I was in the lawn chair, and I kind of woke.
We took a little siesta.
We did, and I think that it was just one of those things, though. I woke up, Jennifer was sleeping, and it took a little while for me to like shaking her arm to wake her up.
I was enjoying my little siesta.
But it is just a question, and this transitions to you and multiple sclerosis and your symptoms, because what happened next, Jennifer made a good point that if she was newly diagnosed, she would be freaked the hell out.
Yeah, Dan woke me up, finally, and I was not able to drive my wheelchair. I was warm, and I could not get my hands and my arms to work in tandem to drive me up to the house so I could get inside and cool off. And I think if I had been newly diagnosed, I would have thought, oh my goodness, my MS has turned a corner. I'm getting so much worse. I need to call the neurologist. I need steroids, stat. But because it has been 20 years of living with the disease, I realized I'm overheated. I need to get inside, get a cold drink, give it a little time. And sure enough, the half an hour later, and I'm not belittling my disease, and maybe I didn't handle that the best. But once I got inside and I got a cold drink, my symptoms kind of slowed down and I returned to normal and I was able to drive my chair just fine. But that is something that I've learned over the 20 years. And I know how to handle that. Have you, Dan, do you ever have instances like that where you get freaked out?
Truly, and I think we still do to a point. But I know when I was first diagnosed and I just started my new job, there was a point where I was calling in sick. I remember calling in sick for 2 days because my hands were so numb and I couldn't pick things up because my hands were so numb. And because this was all new to me with this whole multiple sclerosis that I didn't ask for, I'm thinking, and it's always like you're just afraid the shoe's going to fall. You're just going to, and everything is just rapidly through, Fred Sanford, the big one's coming.
Absolutely.
But it's just like, and so I was freaked out, but I'm thinking, okay. And so I called in sick. 2 days later, I'm feeling better, and I'm thinking, oh, well, that's just me coming out of a relapse. I'm remitting and a relapse or whatever, getting better. Well, come to find out now, if I get sick or my hands are getting excessively numb, I won't call in sick to work because I know it's not my multiple sclerosis. It's because I legitimately have a cold. I'm legitimately sick, so that I know, and any time that I have a fever or I have, bronchitis or whatever winter ailment,
yes,
my MS symptoms are going to be irritated or exaggerated.
And I remember the first time that you and I were married and the seasons changed and you were, I want to say it was allergies. You were outside for a run and you came in and you said, I don't feel so good. And then all hell broke loose because you were not strong enough to help me transfer. And I was like, this is the big one. What's happening? And I was really scared. And that was 12 years ago. But now I know that if you're sick, your MS is going to rear its ugly head, and you just need to take some time to rest and to feel better. And you'll return to your strong, excellent husband.
Why, thank you.
Well, not that you're a bad husband when you don't feel well, but you're
I
strong
could be
awesomeness.
Well, but I do. I think, and and that's the question for you out listening. What about you? I mean, do you have moments of fear that when you were first diagnosed that you really thought this was it?
Or
This
even
MS?
now, I mean, even 20 years into it, when I get really tired and my hand will not work, if I can't buckle my seatbelt myself, or if I can't write as well as I normally do, I will be scared that my MS is progressing. And I don't think it's an unrealistic fear, but it's one I have to kind of put into check and say, see how it's doing in 2 days. If you're still having the problem, then maybe you should call your neurologist. But I think with that, it's experience that I know.
Well, and to which I ask you then, is that how multiple sclerosis works its way into our lives, where we give that grace period of saying, okay, I'm not doing so well today, see how it is in a couple days. Well, in a couple days, it's still the same, but it's not any worse than it was, and so you say, okay, I'm fine, forgetting the fact that, yeah, you, for those 2 days, you were worse, you know what I'm saying? Whereas it's like, I suppose, and that's where you say a progressive disease, and I just think it's sort of just eases its way in.
It's an insidious disease, and that's how it does it. It just slowly weaves itself in. But I think often, which is a nice segment to our next mini, is to get a good night's sleep and see how if you wake up the next morning and your symptoms have gone away or have decreased. And a good night's sleep reminds me of something Dan recently got in the mail.
Well, here's the thing. So we blog. You know, we're active bloggers and everything. And every so often, I'll get emails from like companies wanting to promoting their products and seeing. And obviously, that's what businesses do. And they find people who are talking about this, writing about this. And so it's not uncommon to get emails with people saying, "Hey, have you heard about this product? Blah blah blah." I got an email, and it's from Swanswick Sleep, and this in no way, shape, or form is a paid advertisement or anything. We're not endorsing this, but we're just saying I looked at it because I have a hard time sleeping. I really do. It's like I don't have a hard time falling asleep, but it's the staying asleep. And I see things on Facebook, social media, and everything from people with multiple sclerosis who talk about being so tired through the day, but then you're wired through the night and you can't sleep. That's me. Well, I saw this, and it was really interesting. They got that email when I did, because I just commented to Jennifer, because every morning she asks, how did you sleep? And a lot of times I'm up for like 3-4 hours just walking around the house. And so when I looked, and they offered their blue light blockers, sleeping masks, and magnesium oil spray. And I didn't think the glasses would do anything for me, but they said, which would you like? And I said, well, there's 2 of us. I don't want a sleeping mask because I don't like things on my face. Jennifer likes sleeping with the covers over her head.
So I was perfect for the sleeping mask.
But the magnesium oil spray, I said, I'll try it. So we got the mask and the oil in the mail. And so every night, like a half hour before I go to bed, I spray, 5 sprays on, I spray it on my chest, rub it in, and then go to bed. And I don't want to say, I don't know if it's a placebo thing, but I seem to have been getting better sleep. And I think, but then there's always a question, because I know I've really been conscious to try and not drink coffee after 2 o'clock. So I think what I need to do is drink a coffee right now and see if I'll fall asleep.
Well, we'll see, because I'm really happy that you have been sleeping better, because this is elementary. But if your spouse is sleeping well, more than likely you will sleep well. So when Dan sleeps solidly and is, I know, getting restful sleep, I feel like I'm that much more deeply sleeping, if that's the right way to say it.
Well, and I feel better and more productive the following day. And so, and you've tried the sleeping mask, like if I get up early in the morning and then you go back to bed, you've put it on and you've had good results with it. However, I would say that you don't a lot of times have a hard time sleeping anyway.
No, I don't, but the sleep mask is good, especially when you're awake and it's laid out. So it's just these from Swan Sleep, or Swan Swick Sleep. Boy, that's a tongue twister. They're really good resources, and I think it's worth trying, just a sleep mask or an oil spray. Don't give up. Just keep looking, and hopefully you can find something if you are having trouble sleep.
And yeah, and like I say, it's not an endorsement. It's just commentary that it's like, because MS treats everyone differently. When there's something that it doesn't hurt to try. We had gotten another product that was supposed to help with our balance, and they had everything. They sent us the socks, and it didn't work for us, but I never once discredited it because I'm thinking these could work for somebody else. It's just like we all take different kinds of disease modifying therapies. So it's just like those are things. So have you tried anything? Is there any kind of product, any kind of non-medical thing that you've tried in terms of therapies that have worked for you?
Something that you swear by and something that you would endorse. That is something, that's very important, and we would love to read or see what your story is and what you would recommend. Because again, there's strength in our community if we all share our experiences, and that's part of why we are doing this radio show. Yeah, so we want to share our stories.
Share our stories and help others to make it through, because it can be a scary disease, and so what can we do? And so if we talk about it, you don't feel like you're alone. So thank you all for hanging out with us for our 40th episode of A Couple Takes on MS. This is Dan Digman.
And Jennifer Digman.
And thanks for listening to our MS Minis.
Hope you enjoyed the little bites of knowledge we shared with you today.
And so please connect with us on our website is danandjenniferdigman.com.
And we're at Twitter, DanJenDig.
And on Facebook at Dan and Jennifer Digman. And so thank you all again. And I want to thank the MS&Me Radio Network for having us included in their lineup. And thanks again to Blue Giraffe Kid for composing the music for our program. Take care.